Hey there, kill lads and kill lasses. Oh fuck, that was really fucking dumb. We are here today with a 3.0 kill team game for you. We have the Vottan Salvagers versus the Void Dancer Troop. We are playing mission 2.3 Domination today. It involves operatives going up to objectives, spitting on them for one action point, which claims them for their side. Points are scored at the end of each round based on how many objectives are currently spat on by each team as follows. 1 victory point if the team controls 2, 1 victory point if the team controls more than the other team, and lastly 1 victory point for each objective held that is in the other team's drop zone. Now that the mission is out of the way, both players secretly choose secondaries that will be revealed as the game progresses, the Vottan Salvagers choosing the security deck and the Void Dancer Troop choosing the seek and destroy deck. In the scouting phase, the Vottan Salvagers choose to erect a third barricade, very dwarf-like behavior, and the Void Dancer player chooses to be able to change one of his conceal or engage orders to the other during the first turning point, very Harlequin-like behavior, both players playing on theme today. With that, the first battle round begins. The Harlequin player activates a domino field, making it essentially impossible to target any of his models unless you're within pentagon of them, or if they have fired a gun. The Vottan player responds by placing a slew of tokens all over the field from the effects of the Cognitar, Locatar, and Thane. We move on to the target reveal step, and the Vottan Salvagers reveal Protect Assets, which will allow them to score 1 victory point if they can kill 2 Harlequins in one turn that are both on objectives. The Void Dancers choose not to reveal anything, keeping their motives hidden, very on brand. The Vottan Salvagers then also reveal Central Control, which will score 1 victory point if there is more Vottan APL within square of the center than there is Dancer APL. Now mind that each secondary can only gain you 2 victory points across the whole game, so any secondary you see can only be scored twice. And with that, we go to the first activation. The Vottan Salvagers kick it all off by activating their Locatar and using his Panspectral Scan ability to place a no-cover token right in the middle of the board, making it a very unfriendly spot for the Dancers, and then passing. To the Void Dancers, who move and dash their one player who is carrying a grenade up the board and behind some cover. The Vottan respond by activating the Kind Link and using his Relay ability, allowing him to give an extra APL to another Vottan Salvager, in this case the Jump Pack Warrior. The Void Dancers use their faction-wide fly keyword to move a player up and into the central ruins here. The Salvager's Thane moves in to secure the middle and ends within square of the center. The Void Dancer Troop show off their superior mobility by moving onto an objective with a player, claiming the objective, and then dashing away into cover, all in the same activation here. Not to be too showed up, the Salvagers activate their Lugger, who climbs up to the objective, claims it for 0 action points using his I've Got It ability, and then dashes across the bridge. Now, things turn violent. The Void Dancer Troop activates their Death Jester. He moves to a vantage point and fires his Shrieker Cannon at the Salvager's Grenader, using his Shrieking Harvest action, also catching the Salvager's Gunner carrying the beam weapon. The Vottan player uses a stratagem to demote 2 critical hits on the Grenader to normal hits and manages to keep him alive on 4 wounds remaining. The Gunner is not so lucky and is shrieked to death by the Death Gesture. This will earn the Death Gesture 1 Judgment token, and to top it all off, this will trigger the Void Dancer player to reveal his TAC op of Deadly Marksman. As if still reeling from the last activation, all the Salvagers manage to do is move the Cognitar and claim an objective. Not to fall behind on the objective game, the Void Dancers activate a player who then moves, dashes, and then claims the objective next to the Death Jester. The Salvagers think it's about time they go on the offensive, and the Gunner scales the ruins and fires his L7 missile launcher at the Death Jester, catching the player next to him in the blast as well. However, only 4 damage is dealt to the Death Jester in total as a result of this. A troop player then activates, moving to the middle, claiming the point, then dashing into cover. The Vottan Salvager player then activates the Grenadier, who moves up and throws his Very-3 utility grenade to slow down the Harlequin advance. The Void Dancer player then moves their troop leader up and into cover, but just out of pistol shooting range. Next, the Salvagers player activates their Jump Pack Warrior and using his Boost ability moves 2 pentagons and a triangle in a straight line, positioning himself within pentagon of the Death Gesture. Then using the extra APL given to him by the Kind Link, he throws his 1 grenade, catching both the Death Gesture and the player next to him, killing the Gesture but not even scratching the other player. Following up, the Shadowseer activates using the benefit of the scouting phase to switch from the Conceal to Engage order. He then dashes and uses his Mirror of Mind psychic power on the Jump Pack Warrior, inflicting 4 mortal wounds on him, and proceeds to move further up into cover. For the last activation of the turning point, the Vottan Salvagers player simply moves and dashes the Gunner with the Magna Rifle closer to the center. At the end of the first turning point, the Void Dancers find themselves ahead by controlling more objectives than the Salvagers, giving them that 1-point lead. Furthermore, no secondaries were scored this round on either side. Now, let's go to turning point 2. In the strategy phase, the Void Dancer player uses the strategic ploy Chegarach's Jess to give a melee edge to the whole troop for this turning point. The Vottan Salvager player responds by placing an attack token from the Cognitar and a judgment token from the Thane on the board. Moving to the target reveal step, the Void Dancer player does not reveal any more secondaries, but the Vottan Salvager reveals his final one, which is Hold the Line. Now with all that done, we move on to the first activation of turning point 2. The Dancers activate their troop leader first. He performs a charge move onto the Thane of the Vottan Salvagers. They fight, and using the Murderous Entrance tactical ploy, the troop leader kills the Thane before any resistance is given. He follows up with his last APL to shoot at the gunner next to him, however delivering 0 damage. Next, the Salvagers activate the Jump Pack Warrior, spending 1 CP for the tactical ploy The Ancestors Are Watching, allowing him to perform a free shoot action on the player next to the objective, inflicting 4 damage to that player. Using his remaining 2 APL, the Jump Pack Warrior uses his boost ability to jump back to a safe place. The Void Dancers respond with a vengeance to this slight, having a player charge the already injured Salvager Grenadier and cutting him down where he stands. With his last APL, the player takes a shot with his Shuriken pistol at the Salvager gunner above him, scoring 2 critical hits. In response, the Salvager's player uses the tactical ploy Hardy to demote them to 2 normal hits, and after saves are made, no damage is taken. Next, the Salvager's Lugger switches to an engage order, moves to the edge of the bridge ahead of him, and fires his Ion Blaster at the player on the other side of the bridge, resulting in no damage delivered. He simply danced around the bullets. Not taking being shot at too well, the player then charges across the bridge with murderous intent, however only scoring 1 normal hit to the Lugger's 3 critical hits. The Void Dancer player decides to use the stratagem The Curtain Falls, allowing that player to hit the Lugger once, then flee into cover before the Lugger gets a chance to murder that Harlequin. The Vottan Salvager gunner activates next and targets the Void Dancer troop that just fled the Lugger with a high explosive round, catching the other Dancer in that building as well. The resulting blast kills the Dancer that fled, but leaves the other one unscathed. The Void Dancer's Shadow Seer goes next, changing to a conceal order, moving to gain line of sight to the Magna Rail gunner on the Salvagers team, and assaulting him with the psychic powers Mirror of Minds, inflicting 3 mortal wounds to him, and Fog of Dreams, forcing him to be the last to activate this turning point. The Vottan Salvager's Locator is next to go, and lining up a shot on the troop leader with his Ion Blaster, he inflicts a massive 8 damage to the Void Dancer's leader, leaving him on 1 wound remaining. For his second APL, he hops over the barricade in an effort to get closer to the center. The Void Dancer player then activates the player on the back objective, moving him up to better get involved in the action. The Cognitar goes next on the Salvager's side and attempts to recreate what his friend the Locator did by firing his Ion Blaster at the player. However, that Void Dancer dances around all the shots fired. Following up, the Void Dancer troop that was in the ruins bursts out and charges the injured Lugger, cutting him down, killing him in an instant. With his last APL, the troop then fires his pistol at the Magna Rail gunner, but fails to deliver any damage. In what could be viewed as an act of vengeance, the Vottan Salvager's Kinlink hops over a pipe to line up a shot on the most forward of Void Dancers and unleashes a hail of ion, putting the troop down like a wild grox. Seeing that the Magna Rail gunner has a clear shot at the Void Dancer leader, a troop from behind the building flies forward as far as he can and fires a fusion pistol at the Magna Rail gunner. The anti-tank pistol doesn't quite kill the gunner, leaving him on exactly 1 wound remaining. With his newfound appreciation for life, the Vottan Salvager's gunner, possessing no melee weapons aside from his fists, recklessly charges into melee with the Void Dancer's leader and clocks him one so good it kills the Harlequin, closing the curtain on turning point 2. At the end of the second turning point, the Void Dancers score another 2 points for holding at least 2 objectives and holding more than the Vottan Salvagers, putting them at a total of 4 for the primary. The Vottan Salvagers score only 1 point for controlling at least 2 objectives, bringing them up to 2 for their primary. However, the Vottan Salvagers do score their secondary Protect assets by having killed 2 Void Dancer models that were within circle of objectives, which were the Void Dancer troop's leader and the Void Dancer player that was exploded by the missile launcher. And with those being the scores, we move on to turning point 3. In the strategy phase, no new secondaries are revealed, but the Vottan Salvagers player does use the strategic ploy Toil Earns, targeting the middle objective marker. Now on to the first activation. The Vottan Salvager's gunner lines up his Magna Railgun and fires a shot at the Void Dancer troop on the middle objective, not quite killing him but leaving him on a single wound remaining. Because of the friendly nature of this game, the Arbites allowed the Void Dancer player to reveal a tac op he forgot to reveal earlier, Rout. As penance, only light flogging and flagellations were administered. Now, on to the first activation of the Void Dancer player. He activates the 1-wound player that was just shot with the Magna rifle and performs a charge move into the Locator, and using the tactical ploy Murderous Entrance, kills the Locator before he even realizes he's been charged. Next to activate is the Vottan Salvagers Gunner. With his L7 missile launcher, he targets the Void Dancer troop on the bridge, loading an anti-tank round. He uses it to turn that Harlequin to paste. He then uses his second APL to hop down and move towards the objective. Following up, the Shadow Seer on the Void Dancer's side moves and dashes to a position where he can spot the Cognitar. Then the Shadow Seer proceeds to cast Mirror of Minds, inflicting 3 mortal wounds onto the Cognitar. The Kind Link is next to go, and he uses his Relay ability to once again give an extra APL to the Jump Pack Warrior. The Kind Link then proceeds to fire his Ion Blaster at the Void Dancer troop on 1 wound remaining, who is directly in front of him, killing that Harlequin. The Void Dancer player in the far back only slightly shimmies to reposition further away from the Vottan. What Eldar trickery could this lead to? Next to activate is the Vottan Salvagers Jump Pack Warrior. Switches to a Conceal token, then uses his Boost ability, flies forward onto the center objective, and with his last APL given to him by the Kind Link, he claims the center for the Salvagers. Last to activate is the Cognitar, and all he does is switch to a Conceal order and moves into cover, ending Turning Point 3. This is how the score is looking at the end of Turning Point 3. We have the Vottan Salvagers gaining 2 victory points for controlling more objectives than the Void Dancers, and also controlling at least 2, pushing them up to 4 for the primary. For TAC Ops, the Vottan Salvagers managed to score 1 point on Hold the Line, keeping the Dancers more than Pentagon from their drop zone, and also managing to score 1 point for Central Control by having more APL worth of models within square of the center of the board. The Void Dancers still score 1 victory point on the primary for holding at least 2 objectives, putting them at 5, keeping them just ahead of the Salvagers in terms of primary. The Void Dancers also managed to score their first TAC Op, being Root, for killing a Salvager within Pentagon of the Salvagers' drop zone. Now, onto Turning Point 4. During the strategy phase, no new TAC Ops are revealed and no strategic ploys are used, so with the Void Dancers winning the initiative role, we can move on to the first activation. The Void Dancers kick things off with their Shadow Seer, and he moves forward to gain a line of sight on the Jump Pack Warrior and casting Mirror of Minds on him. However, the Jump Pack Warrior's resolve is too strong to die and is left on a single wound. The Shadow Seer then proceeds to use its last APL to cast Veil of Tears on himself to protect him and or Cry. Hard to tell. Next to activate is the Vottan Salvagers Jump Pack Warrior. The Salvagers player uses the stratagem The Ancestors Are Watching to ignore the movement penalty suffered when injured, enabling the Jump Pack Warrior to move 3 circles and a triangle within circle of the point, and using his remaining APL, capture that objective. The next Void Dancer troop to activate, seeing this moment of bravery and love for his ancestors that the Jump Pack Warrior achieved, thinks to himself it would be hilarious to jump over next to the objective, shoot the Jump Pack Warrior, and claim the objective again, and that's exactly what he does. What a comedian. Chegarak would be proud. Nothing too interesting happens for the remainder of the turn. The remaining Vottan Salvagers do their best to get out of Pentagon of their deployment zone to deny any points they would give if they died there. What a bunch of brave boys. And here are the scores at the end of Turning Point 4. The Vottan Salvagers gain 2 more victory points in the primary by holding at least 2 objectives and more objectives than the Void Dancer player, putting them up to a total of 6 for the primary. They also score 1 victory point for their TAC Ops Central Control by keeping more Salvager APL within square of the center than Void Dancer APL. The Void Dancers do score 1 victory point on their primary by holding 2 objectives, pushing them up to 6 as well. In addition, at the end of the Turning Point, the Void Dancers reveal Execution, not scoring any points for it, but it is there now. Now, into the final Turning Point number 5. No strategic ploys are played, there are no more TAC Ops left to be revealed, we are going straight into the first activation, and with the Void Dancer player winning the initiative, the Shadow Seer activates, charging over the entire building, ignoring all vertical distance and landing next to the Kind Link, and they both engage in fierce melee combat. The Kind Link manages to land a 3 damage punch on the Shadow Seer before the Shadow Seer rends him from existence, using his Wizard Stick. Then, with the Shadow Seer's last APL, he passes. Next, the Vottan Salvagers Gunner activates and has a clear shot to the last Void Dancer troop and fires an anti-tank round out of his L7 missile launcher, only grazing the Harlequin for 6 damage, but that is enough to kill the already injured Harlequin. And with that, Last casualty, the game is called here and we move on to the final score. In this last turn, the Vottan Salvagers score 2 victory points on the primary for holding 2 objectives and more objectives than the Void Dancers, putting their final total on primary up to 8. For the Void Dancers, they score 1 last point on the primary for holding 2 objectives at the end of the game, pushing their final primary total up to 7. And they also score 1 more victory point for killing the Kind Link, achieving rout once again. And with that, we have the final score of Vottan Salvagers 12 and Void Dancer Troop 9. We have a Vottan Salvagers victory today over the Comedic Librarians. Well, that was a ton of fun to record and play out with my good buddy Will. Thank you to him for having the game, and thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed your time here. We recorded this game live over on twitch.tv/smallnardo. If you guys liked this organized version of events, then you might love the Scramble for Rules over there. I have another game where Vottan Salvagers face off against the Navy Breachers recorded here on the YouTube channel if you're interested in more, and if you're really interested in more and liked what you saw, you could always subscribe and leave a like on the video. Well, that's all I have for you today. Goodbye, and brush your teeth regularly.